whatever size we want?
Yes, you don't need a pattern. So literally, let me move my camera down to show you. I've already cut mine out just so that I could, be able to explain things to you. You're literally just laying your fabric out right sides together. All the same rules always apply. Right sides together, selvage edge is your guide for the height. So if you're doing the small, are you all doing the small tote? Pauline is yes?
Yes.
I'm gonna try to do the big tote.
Okay,
well, actually, that's my question. It's an 18 by 21. So does my fabric then have to be like 19 and 22 kind of thing?
No, that includes seam allowance.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna try to make the big one.
Okay, so you're making the big one. So it's gonna be, you want the 18 inches or the 15 inches to be parallel to the selvage edge. Okay, so the height, the lengthwise grain of the tote bag is parallel to the selvage edge. So lay your two pieces of fabric together, right sides together. And what I did is this, I just took my measuring tape, couldn't use my ruler, not necessarily long enough. And you can use the selvage edge. I used scrap fabric. This fabric here is scrap fabric from making masks. So I didn't have like a perfect yard. So if you have a perfect yard, it's much easier. You can measure from the selvage edge 21 inches like this, and then you can mark it, or if you're doing the smaller tote, it's 18 inches, and then just mark with your chalk at the end. And then you could just move your tape up and do another little mark like that, move your tape up. That's the way I do it. And then the same with the height. And then you got to make sure that it's the same, that it's a perfect square, right? You want to make sure it's 15 inches if you're doing the small, tall, and 18 inches if you're doing the large. You want to make sure it's the same height all the way across. So you're going to measure it again and double check like this to make sure. I just keep going across, make sure it's a perfect square. So you'll do the same thing with this is my lining fabric. So you'll do the same thing with your body fabric. You'll lay it out right sides together. And you'll make sure that the length grain is parallel to your selvage edge. So it's 15 inches tall. So you'll measure up 15 inches and mark, and then cut. Does that make sense to everyone? Do any of you have any questions?
Can I see how the small bag looked on you again? I actually have a big piece of fabric. Maybe I could do a big one.
Yeah, hang on. I was just gonna say, if you have one of these, this is handy too, an L square. To get a perfect right angle, you want to use that. If you don't have your selvage edge, you can. But here's the bag, Carol.
Nice.
Okay.
That's the small one, right?
Yes.
Do you have a big one to put on your?
I don't have a big one. I'm making the big one today, so we'll see what it looks like. I wasn't gonna give you guys a choice, but at the last minute, I decided, hey, let's see what a bigger one looks like and give you guys a choice, right?
So the end result is how much smaller in measurements? Is it end up being like 16 by 13?
So it's gonna be, so this one that I showed you, the smaller one, it's 17 by 16. Well, it's just literally I think it's like 3 inches bigger, this one. The big one that I'm gonna make today is 3 inches wider, because this one's 21 and that was 18. Yeah, 3 inches wider, 3 inches taller. So if you can picture, you know, 1.5 inches more on each side, and then like 3 inches taller on the top.
But the finished product is how big, roughly?
I'm sorry, what?
The finished bag is roughly how big? Is it like 2 inches smaller than?
The finished
About-
bag is only 1 inch. It should be, wait a minute. That's a good question. Let me measure this one. Because I'd have to sit down and think it out. Because there's seam allowance on this side, seam allowance. So this finished bag it's about 17 inches wide at the top. And it's 12 inches wide at the bottom because it has the gussets. And it's about 13 inches tall.
Okay, thank you.
Amy, how long are your straps on that bag?
My straps on this bag, so when I got my materials from Renya, she gave me like the whole roll of webbing. So I made mine 29 inches each. So they're both, each one of these is 29. You guys only have enough for 24 inches. It's still cute, you know, it's more like this tall. It's more like a handle bag. I mean, you could still put it over your shoulder, but it's more of this kind of a bag.
Is it, I think I want
I mean, I
to,
could put it over my shoulder, see? It's like,
I think-
yours is gonna be like this.
so I think I changed my mind. I want to use my own strap, but I want to use the one that was given as like an additional long one. Is that possible? So it has like 3 straps.
You wanna use what?
I want to use 2, like I'll get my own straps for 2 of them, but then the one that was given, I want to add a 3rd strap. Like, is that possible?
Like shoulder,
Like
around a body strap?
yeah, like a crossbody one, and then maybe 2 like shorter,
Handles.
yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Is
Yeah,
that, can I do that with what
yeah,
we're doing?
yeah. You could use the webbing that you got in the kit and use that for the handles, and then you could make your own crossbody strap that's longer.
Okay,
Does that
yeah,
make
I
sense?
think I'm gonna do that. And I think I changed my mind. I'm gonna do the large one as well.
Yeah, I want it to be, I want a big one because
Yeah. Because I always have so much stuff.
yeah, that's just, it's more handy when you're, you know, whatever, going off to baseball practice for your kids or throwing in all your sewing, whatever you're doing, your work stuff. But the small one's cute too. I'm happy with it. It's more like a purse to me. Do any of you have interfacing?
How much interfacing? I have a little bit of interfacing.
You need 21 by 18 inches times 2.
I am using like the duck canvas though. do you think I'd still need the interfacing?
It's gonna make it really stiff and stand up, and it's the inspiration for this class was a tote bag that had interfacing, and it makes it look really cool. I think that's, but you know, every fabric it reacts differently when you put the interfacing on, so you'll never know, you know, you don't know until you make a sample. But I think it's gonna look really cool with interfacing, even if the fabric's thick. But it's gonna have body. When you set it down on
It's
the
gonna
table,
stand.
it's gonna stand. Yeah, it's gonna stand up straight. It's not gonna go down or anything. It's gonna be perfectly stiff.
And then what was the dimensions that you would need?
The same dimensions that you need for the lining and the exterior.
Okay.
18
I'll
by.
go check. I'm not sure if I have that much, but I'll go check.
So while are you guys all cutting right now? Are you cutting?
I'm prepping it to cut.
Prepping?
I
I'm
need a bigger
gonna
table, that's what I need.
I'm gonna start ironing my interfacing. So I'm right here if you guys have questions. I'm gonna just start attaching my interfacing to my fabric. So I'm ready to go when you guys are ready.
Hey, Amy, I don't know how thick of an interfacing you want me to have, but I have like, what's it say?
It needs to be pretty crisp, like a paper bag, you know.
Like hard, because I was like, I can fold this.
You can't fold it.
I can, like I can scrunch it. It's a
Mine,
fusible fleece.
mine is like the consistency of a paper bag.
Mine's a little thinner. Should I not use it at all?
It's up to you. I mean, it'll give some extra body if that's what you're looking for. But since if it's pretty soft, it's not going to make that much of a difference, maybe like a 20% difference. Mine is really stiff, my interfacing, so it's definitely going to be a bag that stands. I'm only interfacing the exterior fabric. I'm not doing the lining though. So if I did both the lining and the exterior, then it would be really crisp. It would be like a vinyl bag or something. Are you guys doing okay? Cutting away? Does anyone have any questions? So let me know when you guys are ready to start sewing. I finished cutting and I put my interfacing on. I want you guys to show me your finished cut pieces though, before you start sewing, so I can just make sure that you guys got the right dimensions and everything. Don't worry about the handles right now, just focus on your, looks like Pauline has hers. If you could just hold it up like this, Pauline, so I can see. And then kind of just go down so I can see, start up and slowly go down. Okay, cool. And you have 2 layers, right? Okay, yeah. And then 2 layers for the other. Okay, perfect. Perfect. So you're ready to start sewing. Raj and Melissa, how are you guys doing? Are you guys just watching or listening? Okay, Raj has hers ready. Lindsay and Carol, how far are you guys?
I'm cutting the inner lining.
You're doing what?
I'm cutting the second set. So I cut the outside and I'm cutting the inside.
Oh, the second
And-
set. Okay. I'm sorry, my air conditioning's going and it's so loud I can't hear you guys very well. So I'm just gonna tell Pauline and Raj the next step, and I'll tell you guys again, Carol and Lindsay, whoever's not ready yet. It's no big deal, but I want to keep everyone moving along. So the next step is my camera. So you have these 2 sets, right? You have your exterior and you have your lining. So take the lining and set it aside, and then just focus on the exterior right now. Right sides together. Make sure all the edges are lined up. So the top edge and the sides, the bottom. And make sure you have it facing you with the tall side. So my 18-inch side is tall and my 21-inch side, you have the width side facing you like this. And you're gonna take your ruler and you're gonna go to the bottom corner. So this is 21 inches here across, 18 here. If you're doing the small, it's 15 tall, 18 across. And on the bottom 2 corners, you're gonna draw a 3-inch square. So you take your ruler and you measure 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 inches
Mhm.
up, and mark it with your chalk. And then you're going to do 3 inches this way too. Actually, so if you're doing the small tote, I want you to do 3 inches. 3 inches out, just like I did. I'll use a darker chalk. See that? So 3 inches here. So it's going to look like this. Pauline and Raj. If you're doing the small tote, you're doing a little 3-inch box right there like that. And you're going to do the same thing over here on the other side. If you're doing the large tote, we're going to make this gusset bigger to adjust for the larger size. Let's make it an inch bigger. So let's do 4 inches. So before we start sewing, you're making these 2 boxes here at the bottom of your fabric. If you're doing the small tote, it's 3 by 3, the large tote 4 by 4. And then you simply cut it out. I'm cutting through both layers of fabric.
I'm sorry, Amy, how was the fabric lined up again? It's,
How is it lined up?
yeah, before you cut the corners, it's outer layer with inner layer, right?
Oh, just the same way we always do, right sides together, you know, the same rules when we sew, right sides together. And I want you to have the bag facing you with the width. So you're gonna cut these 2 corners out at the bottom of the bag. So this is the 21 inches across. If you're doing the small tote, it's 18 inches. So it'd be at the bottom of the bag here. You're not cutting the corners out up here. You're doing it down here.
But I'm doing it for all 4 layers, right?
Yeah, but I'm doing 2 layers at a time.
Oh, got it. Okay.
We should iron it first, right?
Oh yeah, always iron.
Iron.
Unless it doesn't need to be ironed.
It
But yeah,
does.
ironing is very good. You want to have nice, clean, crisp fabric.
Wait, so are those squares? It looks angled.
They're squares. It's probably angled, looks angled because of the view of the camera.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I just finished cutting out my squares on my exterior. And now I'm gonna set that aside. And I'm gonna cut out my squares on my interior. So remember, if you're doing the small tote, do the 3 inches by 3 inches. But if you're doing the large tote, do the 4 inches. So I'm doing my lining now. And these are the gussets that are at the bottom of the bag. So make sure you're working on the longer edge of the fabric. So my edge, this should be 21 inches. If you're working on the smaller one, then it's 18 inches. So then you can put your ruler and your chalk away when you're done. And now I'm gonna cut out the gussets on my lining. This is a really fun bag. It's easy to make. Okay, so now you'll need your scissors. Not scissors, your pins. We're gonna sew. So I'm gonna pin my sides, but I'm also going to insert my label. So it'll be inside the lining.
I'm sorry, Amy, I just finished cutting my pieces. So I have the large one, and I do a 3.5 by 3.5 square. Is that what you were saying?
No, a 4-inch. So
4
now
inch
you're
square.
gonna cut out your gusset. So see how I cut out these squares?
Uh-huh.
It looks like this.
Okay.
So you're gonna measure 4 inches across in the bottom corner and 4 inches down
Okay.
and make a square, and you're gonna cut it out. You're doing the large one, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So do that for both the lining and the exterior. So I'm working on the lining right now. I'm finished with the cutting and I'm just pinning my side seam. We're gonna sew this entire side seam and then we're gonna sew the bottom, but we're gonna leave an opening here. We always leave an opening in these bags when we have a lining so that we can turn it inside out. You remember we did it on the cell phone bag and we did it with the leather clutch. So we want to leave an opening big enough to get our hand through. So I usually just kind of put my hand here and based on that, I'm going to put a mark with the chalk because I'll forget to stop sewing there if I don't. So I marked 2 lines here with my chalk to show me when I get to here, I have to stop sewing. Same here, so this stays open. And I'm gonna pin the other side. And now I'm gonna take it to the sewing machine. I'm ready to sew. So we're just sewing these 2 long vertical side seams and then the bottom. You don't do anything with these cutouts yet. Just leave that open. And after I'm done with the lining, then we're gonna do the same thing with the exterior. So I'm just gonna have you guys looking at me at the sewing machine. So I'm doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance. 1/2 inch seam allowance is what we usually use, so that's nice. Keeps it easy for us. I always backstitch at the beginning and the end. Okay, so I finished sewing the lining. Just so that there's no confusion. Oops, I didn't trim my thread. So I sewed both side seams. One, right, and then two, and then I sewed my bottom on each side. I left an opening for my hand. Back stitch really good right here so it doesn't pull apart when you're turning it inside out. Now I'm going to go to the ironing board and I'm going to press my seams open. I'm not going to finish the seams because the lining is going to be finishing the exterior, and we're not even going to bother with it. We're not going to bother trimming or any of that. We're just going to be rebels today. So are there any questions, you guys? So I'm putting my bag like in the small part of my ironing board. It works out pretty well to get into the side seam.
Amy, this is just the inner one, right?
I'm sorry?
This is just the inner fabric that we're doing right now. We're not doing
Yeah,
outer.
yep, yeah. If you're following along with me, I'm working on the lining. It's called the lining. So when we're talking to each other, let's call this the lining, and we'll call the other piece the exterior. And then I'm also doing the bottom too. It's a little trickier. Press the seam open, but you can still get in there. Using the tip of the ironing board, the narrow part. And then where the hole is for the opening, I'm actually pressing that open as well. So it'll be nice and clean when we sew that up later. So that's my lining. I'm actually going to turn it right side out. And I'm going to just set that to the side. And now we're going to go back to the exterior fabric. And we're going to pin and do the same thing. So I'm working with my side seams. I want to make sure that my edges are lined up. And I'm going to pin just like I did with the lining, except on the exterior fabric, I'm going to, not going to have a hole at the bottom. So it's the same thing except no hole at the bottom. Wow, the interfacing makes it really thick. So after we finish the exterior fabric, then we're gonna stitch the gussets. And then I'll show you how to attach the handles, and that's it. So if you want to wait and attach your handles next week, if you're gonna get new handles or you're making the crossbody strap like Melissa, you can just skip that today and do it for homework. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my sewing machine. I've pinned the bottom and the two side seams, just like that. And now I'm gonna go sew this side seam, and the bottom. These pieces you don't sew. Not yet, you will eventually. Just the two sides and the bottom. And this is the top of your bag. You don't wanna sew that. You do not want to sew that. Half-inch seam allowance. So how is everyone doing?
Just catching up. So how big of an opening did you say we need to leave for the inner lining?
On the lining, I just put my hand right here and then I mark on either side, just, you know, so I can get my hand through the fattest part of my hand.
Okay. And on both of them, I don't sew on the square cutout. I just sew like just that side stitches, right?
Yeah, this you leave undone. You're just sewing the side and the bottom.
Okay. And the same for the inner, except I
Yeah.
leave in like a hand opening at the bottom.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm gonna iron my seam allowances open. It's important to iron those seam allowances open because when you sew the gusset, you need to have them open so you can match up the seams. Okay. So I'm done with my seam ironing. And I'm gonna grab lining. I'm gonna put my exterior aside. And I'm going to actually turn this inside out. And now we're gonna do the gussets. Are you guys ready for me to do that? Where are you guys? Carol and Lindsay?
I'm way
I just-
behind, so I'll probably just catch up later.
Yeah, I've only finished sewing the lining.
The
I haven't
line.
done
yeah.
powder yet.
Okay, okay, Pauline, where are you?
I'm at the lining also.
Okay. Okay. Raj, I'll wait for you guys. Take your time. Go slow, do it right. Let me know when you guys are ready. Just call my name, okay? Anyone ready?
Not quite.
Amy,
Yes.
I have, this is Pauline. The bottom thread is getting loose. It was sewing okay and now it's not tight on the bottom.
Oh, your bobbin is messing up with you?
No, it's not the bobbin. Here, can you see that? It's loose right here.
Oh, yeah, that happens. Yeah, that's your bobbin.
My bobbin? Okay, so I'll
So no, just adjust your tension.
my tension.
Yeah,
Oh, I re-threaded it. I adjusted the tension.
take
I'm
the
gonna,
bobbin out, take the
and-
bobbin out and just kind of make sure it's intact and not knotted up, and then lay it back in. And put the
Okay.
bobbin back in.
Okay.
And then take a different piece of fabric. You could
yeah,
take,
this is my practice fabric.
okay,
And because I said it's messing up, it's something wasn't right. Let me redo the bobbin and see.
yeah, and you
That's
already
better.
adjusted the tension?
I did a couple of times. It got better, but it's not right. Let me try the bobbin part now. I tried re-threading the top part.
Yeah,
I
that's good,
tried tension. I
good.
tried. So now I'm gonna try the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, all of that's good.
Okay.
And what is your stitch length?
Like 3.
That's good. Okay, try the bobbin, taking it out and just putting it back in. Make sure it's not knotted up or stuck or anything. Maybe sometimes when you get to the end of the bobbin, when it's almost empty, sometimes it starts to do that too.
Okay, let me play with the bobbin now. Thank you.
Well, I want to show you guys the gusset so we have enough time before we go. I know some of you are still catching up. Are you getting close?
I'm just ironing at this point, so
I'll show you what to do. You can watch me.
okay.
Go back to ironing. It's super easy. So you're gonna do the same thing on the lining as you do on the exterior. So what I show you right now I'm doing it on my exterior. You'll do the same thing on your lining. So it's inside out and my seams are done. And now you're gonna take this gusset and you just open it up like this. I just went like this, and you're gonna match these two seams together here. So see how it's like that? What I wanna do is match these two seams. So my seams are kind of uneven. I had some trouble cutting this fabric today. So I'm just gonna fix my seams so they're not completely uneven. And I'm gonna match them up right on top of each other like that and pin them. And then you just pin all the way across here. So I'm gonna pin all the way across here. And then on this side, all the way across on this side. So you're creating this gusset. So this gets all pinned. Do that now. And then after it's pinned, then you go to the sewing machine and you sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way across to close this up. And you do the same thing on the other side. There's 2 gussets on each piece, on the 2 on the lining, 2 on the exterior, so 4 altogether. So I finished pinning and now I'm gonna go to the sewing machine like this. And I'm gonna stitch a 1/2 inch seam allowance right across this edge here. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Just pinch the bag open like this, and you match up your seams. Again, I have to do a little cutting because my seams are matching these up right here. And then all the way across here, I'm pinning. And that's it. You want to go back and finish what you were doing. Or if you want to watch me on the sewing machine, you can. Okay. So now I'm going to just take it to the sewing machine. And stitch that 1/2 inch seam allowance right across on both of my gussets. So after you sew your gussets, you want to press them open. So we always press everything open if we can. So you can use the small end of your ironing board, and you just do the best you can to get as much of it pressed open as possible. I'm not going to clip anything or do anything special. I'm just going to iron it as best I can. Nice and flat and open. It's nice and pretty on the right side.
Oh, Amy, I think Carol got kicked out of the meeting. She wanted to know if you could let her back in.
Yeah, I got her back in.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next step is attaching the handles. But how are you guys all following along? Are you doing the gussets?
I'm doing gussets.
Okay. How's Pauline? Pauline was having issues, technical.
It worked.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yay. Good job. So I'm just turning it, I want to see what mine looks like. I'm always wanting my gratification for all my work. So I'm turning it right side out just so I can see how this is looking. But yeah, the next step is to attach the handles. So I think Melissa's the only one that's going to do something unique. Everyone else is using the handles that came in the class. Is that right?
I'm doing the same handle too.
You're doing the handles that you got in the bag?
No, I'm doing with my material.
Oh, you're doing your own. You're making your own. Okay. Then
Uh-huh.
we'll just wait and attach the handles next week.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye, Raj.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Ryan.
Carol too.
Have a good day.
Bye, Raj.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Well, here's the big tote bag. It has the interfacing, so it's more, you know, it standing up. And it's not that much bigger, but it is a good, this is a good size, I think.
Amy, I have a question. When you're ironing the gussets, how do you get like the end of it flat open if it's, does that make sense?
Yeah, so the end you can't get open. You could clip, are you talking about, here, let me open this up. Are you talking about this little fold right here?
Yes.
So normally you would clip it with your scissors so it would lay open. If you want to do that, you can. I didn't, I just went with my iron in as far as I could. Sometimes I don't like to clip because then it gets so close to the tip. You know, it might start to open up the seam. But yeah, what you would normally do is you just put a little clip into it and then it lays open better and you can iron better. But I don't think it's that necessary. It's up to you. If you feel like doing the clip, you know how to do it now. Like the proper way to open that up would be to clip and then it'll lay more flat. So I just clipped this one a little too. So now I could probably get in there a little better. It doesn't make that much difference though. So that's why I didn't tell you guys to do it.
I kind of thought I did something wrong, you know, like when you kind of sew a sleeve shut or something like that.
No, you didn't do anything wrong. You did everything right. So now you guys have your lining and your body, and then I'll just show you, have your handles ready for next week, and I'll show you how to attach them on the bag, like the, you know, we're gonna figure out the distance, how far apart they are. And then we stitch them on to the exterior, and then we're gonna attach the lining to the exterior, and then we're gonna sew a top stitch. So after you attach the lining to the exterior, then there's this top stitch right here on the edge, and then you're done. So that's it. That's a day. Does anyone have any questions? You guys are good? If you're making your own handles, Raj already left. I know Melissa wants to do a crossbody. These are 1 inch wide. These handles are 1 inch wide. And Melissa, think about how you want your crossbody strap, where you want it attached on the bag. If you want it like on these two side seams here. So your handles will be here. So maybe you want it attached here and here. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think I want to do it on the side, like how you were
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question. If you wanted 1 inch, so we would cut 2.5.
Oh, for the handle?
Yes, if we're gonna make our own.
Oh, if you're making your own, are you gonna do a double layer and sew it and turn it inside out?
I haven't decided, but I was just thinking.
If you
case
cut, if you cut 2 pieces of fabric and then sew it all the way around together and leave an opening, turn it inside out, iron it, then you would need to add for the seam allowance. So
Okay.
if you want to do a little 1/4 inch seam allowance, you'll need to add a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here. So you'll have to add a 1/2 inch. So yeah, it would need to be 1.5 inches wide.
Okay.
And then your finished product would be 1 inch wide.
Okay.
And if you do it like that, the best thing to do is okay, so you cut 2 pieces, sew it together, right sides together, turn it inside out, and then iron it really nice and flat. And then you need to do the top stitch. So like we did on those smart, I don't know if you took that class. Get this out. On that cell phone bag class.
Oh, I did take that. Yes.
Yeah, so we made the strap on that, in that class, and we did the top stitch right here. So
Okay.
after you iron it, make sure you sew this top stitch. It makes it so much better.
Okay.
All right, if you guys don't have any more questions, we'll just end class now. Oh, there's Snoopy. I'm gonna cut the recording.